tienes esa cosa especial, bella mariposa especial, ella con su rosa especial, todos quieren ese especial, tú tienes esa cosa especial, bella mariposa
School's out
especial, ella
for
con su rosa
summer.
especial.
And
We
we're
already-
also recording.
Damn it!
That's staying in.
I know. Huzzah! Fitouri here again. Welcome to PIDCAST episode 29, the podcast by fans, for fans, and for people who really just need to vent about the Colorado Rapids. We are once again without Monk, who, in the words of Run the Jewels, is overworked, underpaid, and underprivileged. On topic for today, we can all hope he unionizes his workplace so he can have time to grace us with his presence in future episodes. But for now, you are stuck with me. PIDCAST is, of course, a part of the Bangarang soccer community, telling soccer stories a mile in the sky and on till morning. If you're all done pressing pins into your front office voodoo dolls, come touch grass with us at our free-to-play pickup around Denver. Don't forget to check out our sibling show, Summit Up, which is covering all things Denver Summit FC, WSL, and women's sports here at the 5280. And I am once again joined with Matt, the guy who ripped the tags off of his Beanie Babies.
So, am I in more trouble for depreciating the investment of my Beanie Babies by removing the tags, or from like the government showing up at my door for cutting off my mattress tag?
You just are anti-tag.
Yeah, no tag. Hold on,
No
I think
tags,
the
no
shirt
labels.
does the shirt have a tag? Yeah, the shirt has a tag. Dang it.
Do you leave your sticker on your baseball caps?
The one Omar makes, because he makes custom stickers, if he puts them on there, I leave them on. I do want to point out something, though, because you made fun of me in a past podcast episode about my pronunciation of Minnesota. I think, Sarah, where are you born and raised?
Colorado.
I think in the intro was the first time I heard you say Colorado.
Colorado, yeah. There's an A in
Okay,
there.
well, there was more inflection when you started off.
Wait, where do we say? The Colorado Rapids. You really got to give that A its full space. Colorado Rapids.
Yeah, like you just spent the day down in Buena Vista.
Open your mouth. Anyways, so today we are going to preview our upcoming game this weekend, of course, against Houston. But we'll start out with some PIDDER Chatter, some news around the state and around the league. And then also we are bringing a really special interview today, a little more on that later. But we are interviewing Keegan Rosenberry about his role in the MLS Players Association. So doing a union special episode for this recently past Labor Day. Of course, we'll talk a little bit about fantasy, although that will be brief this week because we have already started that week. So a lot of players are locked in. And that is what we have for you today. So with that, over to Matt on PIDDER Chatter.
We're going to start off PIDDER Chatter on a sad note. Unfortunately, for those of you listening here in Colorado, here in Denver, you may already know that our community has faced yet another school shooting yesterday at Evergreen High School, about 20 miles away from Denver proper. A student brought in a revolver and fired it upon his fellow classmates. As of this morning, we know that the shooter has passed away due to a self-inflicted gunshot wound, and the two victims of his shooting are still in critical condition at local area hospitals. There is little for me to do than just feel so human in this moment. We talked about it a bit yesterday, but that feeling of just your heart, your humanity kind of falling from your chest, like this is some hopeless natural phenomena that we are always destined to experience, always have experienced. It's hard to recall that that wasn't always the case, and that it still does not have to continue being the case. And the only way I know how to approach things in this moment is to reach out to my loved ones, to the community that I love. I went and played soccer last night after hearing the news with my typical pickup crew, and we talked about it, decompressed a bit, and it was really good to have community to brace how I was feeling in that moment. I can't imagine what the school, the students, the families, the victims are all going through right now. I think this hits particularly close to home, as the Rapids are known to be such a homegrown youth academy that if there is not someone in the academy right now that is affected by this, that went to that school, knows someone that went to that school, the matchup this weekend is a prime example that the Dorsey brothers, Griffin and Logan, whom were once Rapid Academy stars, Griffin Dorsey will be coming back to face his home state team this weekend, mere days after his hometown faced a school shooting. The Dorsey brothers both being from Evergreen, Colorado. And so I hope we can all just come together as a community, and especially when Griffin gets back here, that everything is as okay as it can be with his friends and family and community and Evergreen.
Yeah, my godchild, who listeners will hear chanting "Go Rapids" in this episode, just started preschool in Denver Public Schools, and she's already had her first lockdown drill. And it just hits close to home when we think about the average age of all of these players on our team and how many of them went through our Colorado schools. All of them grew up in the age of school shootings. All it's not unlikely that several of them could have lived through school shootings. There have been so many school shootings in Colorado. Colorado has had a disproportionate number of school shootings. Columbine, which kind of is seen as like the first school shooting, was a Jefferson County school, and this is another Jefferson County school shooting. So this is just like, this ain't it, kids. Like, this is not the thing that students should be thinking about. Folks know I work with teachers, and this has just been a hard week. I've worked with teachers who've survived school shootings, and just the long-term trauma, the heartbreak that every survivor of these and anyone connected at all to these shootings experience. Like, this shouldn't be the world we want to live in.
There's one quote that Sara and I came across when we were doing research ahead of the show that just keeps reverberating through my head. It's from one of the students being interviewed after the shooting, and the quote is, "I felt like I was prepared, but it's just so different when it actually happens." And I, for the life of me, cannot fathom, I believe this is a 16-year-old student that is quoted here, having the practiced response or the conditioned response to say, "I felt like I was prepared." Like, this is, like Sara said, this ain't it, kids. I have a nephew who means the world to me, and the idea that this could happen to any of our loved ones is baffling. And for whatever you might accredit these happenings to, whatever additional circumstances, I have no problem coming on this record and saying it's definitely the guns. Let's get that shit taken care of, and let's also go after every other precipitating factor that people bring up. This should be a Manhattan Project level effort from the United States and our community to protect our kids. They're the best and the future of us.
Well, obviously our thoughts are with Evergreen, everyone impacted, and especially with the two students who are currently in the hospital.
Moving on to other news in the Rapids world, we have seen some movement as we approach the roster freeze this weekend. We have seen Rapids center back Josh Beluz, midfielder Malik Pinto, and then recently we also saw left back Jackson Travis loaned out to USL teams. Those teams for Josh, it's Hartford Athletic, where he joins former Rapids Sebastian Anderson and Marlon Hairston. Malik Pinto will be joining Orange County Soccer Club with current Rapid loanee Bryce Jameson. And then Jackson is going to Birmingham Legion. All of these teams are in playoff hunts or the Jägermeister Cup. And we talked to the comms team Their take on this is it's a fantastic opportunity to get these young players better minutes in postseason clinching scenarios. So they're high on those moves. In moves coming back to Commerce City, Ali Fadal is back in training. There has been some commentary about his absence, but we can say that Ali is back. He was training with R2. I expect we'll see Ali feature into the game in some facet this Saturday up in Greeley. Also, Adam Beaudry is back in Commerce City after training in Spain with the U.S. youth national team. The Rapids have called Beaudry back to Denver and to the Rapids. This is notable given Zach Steffen was out of training on Tuesday with a knock that had him limited in training today. Shout out to Brian Jennings for being at training and getting that skinny out there on Zach's training level today, listeners, Thursday. We talked to the comps team and they said that this was a move made out of an abundance of caution. Should anything flare up or linger with Zach, Nico, what have you, they wanted to make sure that they had all of their keepers they trust in-house before the roster freeze because they would not be able to recall Adam from loan after this weekend. Additionally, of note is that Adam will surely be out of the country in a few weeks as he's expected to be the starting, if not backup, goalkeeper for the U.S. Youth National Team as they endeavor into the 2025 Youth World Cup in Chile. So glad to have Adam back. I think Switchbacks fans certainly loved him. He put up a hell of a performance there, and I'm excited to see what he goes on to do down in South America here in a few weeks. Since we talked about training a little bit, some updates. Noah Cobb was limited on Tuesday. Charlie Harper was getting some good first team reps and seemed to be fitted in well with the back line there. Again, and I can't cite this enough, every time I see Rafa Santos in training, I am just astonished by his left foot, his ability to pass, to ground pass, to his aerial crosses, and his shots he can put in with his left foot are just chef's kiss. And then my happening of the week was when I was rounding the corner, Chris Sharpie in his loud Australian accent as Nico Hansen was taking goalkeeping drills, yells out, "What are we creating, Nicky?" And Nico kind of deadpan goes back to Chris Sharpie in response, "Chaos." And Sharpie just goes, "Exactly." So that's what I got for PIDDER Chatter. Anything from you, Sarah?
A goalie chaos strategy. I look forward to seeing it this weekend.
It felt like we were hearing, like, what's that famous Pinky and the Brain line? It's like, what are we going to do today? Same thing we do every day. Take over the world. Take over the world. Yeah, that's the vibe that Sharpie and Nico were giving Tuesday. A
call-in response on chaos. I love it. Nothing else from me. Shall we move on to our interview?
Absolutely.
All right. Matt and I had a great opportunity to sit down with Mr. Rapid himself and bicycle kick barber of Dick's Sporting Goods Park, Keegan Rosenberry. We are bringing you this special interview as a Labor Day special. Labor Day was this past weekend, so we're a little late, but we reached out specifically to have this interview because Keegan Rosenberry serves as the player representative on the MLS Players Association. The MLS Players Association is the union that represents MLS players. All of the MLS players are union members, union workers, and work under a labor contract. A quick note about Labor Day, because as I was reflecting on what it meant to sit down with a union sibling and talk about his experience as a union worker, which is a little different than what we normally do, looking at these players as celebrities, as athletes, but as someone who is a part of our labor movement, I was thinking about our own labor history in Colorado. So Labor Day was founded and acknowledged as a federal holiday in 1894 to honor the work of the labor movement in fighting for workers in our country. 1894 was 20 years before the Ludlow Massacre. Ludlow, being one of the biggest labor history moments in the United States, took place in southern Colorado. And this was a moment, and I bring it up, where the National Guard was called in to stop striking workers and to break up a strike. So labor is a unique point of history where we can look back to on a time when the National Guard was used against community and community movements, something that I feel like hits really close to home in this particular time we're in. So I wish everyone a happy Labor Day, not just hoping that you had some good hot dogs and pizza, but that you also are building community and building resistance in our time. And I hope you really enjoy this interview that we had with our Labor sibling and all-star Keegan Rosenberry. We are here today with longtime Rapids defender Keegan Rosenberry. His accolades with the team are numerous. He's made 176 appearances with the team starting in 2019 and worn the captain's armband. He's a consistent force on the field, a strong leadership presence. But today we are actually talking to Keegan about a specific role he plays that folks may be less familiar with, and that is his role as the union representative for the MLS Players Association. Hi, Keegan. Welcome.
Hi, thanks for having me, guys.
Keegan, as in all our conversations on the show, we like to start off with you telling the listeners who you are in your own words.
Yeah, my name is Keegan Rosenberry, and I've been with the Rapids now for 7 years, 10 years in the MLS, and I think most importantly, I've just grown into a really proud leadership role for this club. And as we learn maybe a little bit more today, that comes in a lot of different ways. And I've been really kind of blessed to be here for a long time and learn a lot of different facets of leadership, and that comes, the Players Association, that comes holding some team meetings every now and then, that comes on the field and developing young players and trying to relate to just about everyone that works at the club. So anything and everything Rapids, and it's been a lot of fun, and I'm hoping to be here for a while longer.
Well, we would be remiss if we missed the opportunity to ask, how is fatherhood treating you?
It's been a lot of fun. We think we anticipated it being a lot worse than it was. And I don't know, maybe that was just us trying to prepare for the worst in our minds and get ready for a new challenge. But Booker has been, I think, really kind to us. Whether he's got control over that or not, I don't know. But we've been lucky. Not much to compare it to, obviously being our first child, but he's been kind to us. Through the nights, and in general with his temperament, it's been a lot of fun.
So 2 questions on top of that. How has Zaya been as Booker's kind of steward? And then the second one, you've been sporting a more luxurious mane this season. You've always kind of been the hair trendsetter. Would you call this more of your dad cut, or is where the hairstyle should be trending?
Yeah, Zaya has been awesome. It's been a fun relationship to watch grow. She was initially a little too excited when we first brought Booker home, and was very licky. Wanted to basically at any time greet him, just tongue to face, tongue to anything she could touch. But she's learned some self control, and she's very well behaved in general, thanks to my wife and all of her work. So she's trained her to a point where it's kind of service dog level obedience, and it's been a lot of fun to watch. She's very instinctively protective, and has been awesome with him. So that's been fun. The hair has been a new venture for me. I've never really grown it out this long, and it's I don't know what direction I'm heading. I don't know what the end goal is, but it's gotten a lot of positive feedback for the most part, so I appreciate it.
Yeah, I mean, in training Tuesday, Emilio said he's trying to get your haircut as soon as possible. So you're definitely still setting the trends. And then dialing back to training, there are 2 things I've seen from you personally in training that I wanted to touch on before Sara gets into the bulk of the subject matter. First, are you the best hooper on the team? Because your deep 3 arc would make trig professors weep tears of joy. And then second, can you walk us through that Marcelo Balboa reenactment that you put on Zach Steffen a couple weeks ago?
I don't think I am the best basketball player on the team. I would be interested if we did, maybe just a set shooting, maybe like a 3-point competition. That'd be a lot of fun. I'd probably rate myself in that. But we've got some good size on the team. I know Yappy rates himself. And I think size more than anything might be a problem if we were to, really go down the ranks for basketball players. But I think I could definitely contribute if we had a starting five. That's for sure. Yeah, the bicycle kick was not really something I'd done before in training, and especially not in kind of a live drill. There's always a crossing and finishing drill where you can try some acrobatics, but um, wouldn't have happened without a first touch that kind of took over my head. And luckily, Jackson wasn't too close that I wasn't going to hit him in the head. That's what you always kind of worry, especially in training with a high kick like that. But yeah, once it bounced up there like that, it was already gone through my mind kind of before I was, my body was kind of doing it before I could even think about it. And that's what was good about it. Again, I kind of kept Jackson out of danger, didn't fall on him too bad. And as you could tell by my comment on the post, I was pretty happy it was on Zach too. So yeah, it was pretty cool. It was a cool moment. And like I said, I haven't really done something like that before. So glad the cameras were there. That's for sure.
Well, it was amazing to witness firsthand. I felt so lucky to have been there for that. Sara, you get to move into the meat of it now.
Yeah, well, let's talk union. So, this interview is coming out a few days after Labor Day, and we just wanted to start things off by inviting you to talk a little bit about how you came into your role as the Rapids representative for the MLS Players Association.
Yeah, it's been an area of growth for me. Even my first year in the league was 2016, and we had gone through a collective bargaining negotiation. I don't know what year our last renegotiation was. Maybe right before COVID, right after COVID. I can't remember the pandemic, but it's been interesting. Even my first year was kind of elected into a young player rep, which isn't a formal position, but it's more so just to, again, as a player rep for each team, you're more or less a liaison to the executive board and player association as a whole, to try to just keep your team on board with current topics, ongoing discussions, and things that will come up in the next collective bargaining agreement or negotiation. So it's been, the young player reps or international player reps. That's just different pools of players within your locker room to be able to tie into one. And sometimes there's language barriers, or guys are going through different walks of life and might have different input as to uh, different topics that are valuable to them. Free agency, salary cap, moving expenses, different things like this that we'll probably get into later. But I've been the player rep, I don't know now, maybe 3 or 4 years. And again, it's more kind of that middleman than anything else, just connecting the two, your team, the Players Association in general, and just kind of being a contact point that people are comfortable coming to if they aren't comfortable going to the association on their own. And it can be for such a wide range of things that it's really helpful for guys, I think, just to be able to talk to somebody and kind of bounce some ideas off of.
So following up on that, what does it mean to you personally as the player rep, but also as a player to work in a unionized space?
Yeah, I think, again, we talked about leadership before. It is a form of leadership. I'm happy to do that for the guys, and not only the guys, but the player reps and the executive board all around are serving for the players, and I think that's really cool. And in general, the goal of the association is to honor the players that were before us and leave this space in a better place for the players that are coming after us. And I think that's a really cool way to see the growth of the league, try to progress all of the harder times that players before us went through with different qualities of everything, around the league, how many teams there were, the quality of training facilities, the um, things provided daily, the travel, accommodations and uh, locker rooms and away stadiums. It's come such a long way in such a short period of time in the grand scheme of things. And yeah, it's an honor, and it's been a lot of fun, and thankfully the guys see me as suitable to carry out a lot of the duties. Um, and yeah, it changes constantly, the discussions that we have. And again, another topic, maybe a calendar change that we could get into, is it's very impactful and very real issues that we kind of bat around constantly, and another way to interact with players across different teams. Kind of having these small group bargaining committee calls um, is a cool way to, again, you interact in one way on the field, but off the field, to having these discussions is really cool.
Thank you. I'd love to ask kind of a follow-up on that. I'm curious about like you as a young player coming into this work. Like some people seek out union jobs in other careers. Some people go in knowing they're going to have a union. Like how did you come to learn about the players union? What was your first experiences with that? What was that like?
Yeah, I can't say that I sought it out. It was more so I came into the team in Philadelphia and kind of was thrown into a playing role and contributed to the team very early, and they saw me as kind of a leader of those younger guys in our locker room. And our player rep at the time asked me if I was comfortable doing something like that. And we always have a meeting with the Players Association. They come out to each team in preseason, explaining to the young players, to the new players in the league, who they are, what they do, what they're useful for them, how that relates to them, what the whole idea is. Kind of like we're talking about here. And um, not that it jumped out at me, but I was kind of, again, honored to be chosen for that in a type of leadership, and help the young guys kind of understand different things that we're talking about and different ways that they can benefit from it. As a new player to the league, you have certain things that are, um, moving expenses or little expenses that can be paid for as you're trying to figure out a new place to live, or a rental car or a hotel, different things that the league offers to take care of guys as they relocate. And yeah, that's how things started, and it's kind of grown from there. It was a long time ago now, it seems, but it's been a lot of fun to continue to explore that and see how the league has changed.
That's interesting. You kind of talked about the preseason meeting, and then kind of the throughout season availability of you and the association to players for all of those small questions or very pragmatic things that come up. Um, what other sort of MLSPA activities or scheduling do you or the PA do throughout the season?
So a couple of reps from the association will also come out for in-market meetings with each team throughout the season, usually in the midsummer. One or two of them get inside, get in front of people's faces in their locker rooms, and just, again, connect, update on discussions that are happening. What's the latest? Touching base on things we talked about in preseason, if maybe progress hasn't been made, getting themselves maybe logged into the app that we have, little things like that that just continue to um, unionize, for a lack of a better term, but bring us together and get us to think as one. And that's kind of the biggest goal for us when we come across issues that maybe we want to stand strongly on, or disagree with the league, or want to go back and forth with. When that unity is shown as a player pool, it makes our voice so much stronger, and can have such a big impact in the way that we interact with the league as a whole. Outside of that, there's also a meeting that goes on early off season or middle of the off season. Once things are done, they try to get all the player reps together, the executive board, again, just to do something in person, have some meetings, interact in a different way that's a little bit easier than on Zoom sometimes, or virtually. So other than that, when the calendar switch topic first came about, or if anything comes about that might be brought up in the next bargaining agreement, we'll jump on small group calls. And so I'm the player rep, and then Zach and Cole are also part of that bargaining committee, which is just another subset of kind of players that interact. And so we jump on with Portland and Seattle, and there's maybe 9 of us on a call, and we, just try to get a feel for what's going on in each other's locker rooms, where we're at, where our heads are at, what are our concerns or questions, and just breaks it down into small group interactions before we kind of go back with that one voice.
I think that members, the concept of unions might be less familiar for some of our listeners. I think our national union density is only 10%. So in an industry like MLS, where all the players are a member of a union, these things might be more common. But I think for our listeners, they may not be as familiar with how unions work. And so I want to talk about a collective bargaining agreement or a union contract for our listeners. At the crux of unionism, a lot of times is bargaining a contract with the employer around the terms and conditions of employment, and that will govern a lot of the day-to-day for workers. So I'm curious, I'm personally familiar with union contracts, but not player contracts. Like, what are some of the provisions in your contract, and how does that impact your day-to-day work? What are some of the wins that the unions got through that bargaining that maybe fans see on the fan side, but don't realize that comes out of collective bargaining?
Yeah, it's always kind of evolving, and through each negotiation process, we kind of have wins and losses across the board. Really basic level, minimum salary for senior roster players. I think my first year in the league, it was 63,000. I think maybe we're up to 83, 85,000. I think by the end of this CBA, it might be close to 100. And those are, again, at a basic level, if I came out of Georgetown with a 4-year degree, I would probably have hoped to make $63,000 at my first job. And that competing with being a professional athlete, and all of a sudden I'm on the field all the time, it's kind of, again, trying to incentivize and get our league in a place where that isn't even really a thought, where, oh, should I leave the league and sport to maybe support my family better? And in addition to that, free agency rules. You see a lot of other American sports with total freedom in choice of where to go and what market, and a lot more power for the players. NBA specifically, you see some player options as opposed to team options, where the player decides if they want that next year to be fully guaranteed, as opposed to the team deciding if that year is going to be guaranteed. So um, things like that, required time off weekly or monthly. It's a funny schedule. It's not a 9 to 5 work schedule. So on your typical work week, we would train Monday through Friday, or Tuesday through Friday, game Saturday, recovery days, in-person session Sunday, off Monday. So I think there's a required 1 off day per week and maybe 4 per month. There's also some of those longer off periods or international breaks where there's some required off time, and little things like that. I think have gotten us to a place where there are rules in place where coaching staffs and support staffs have to honor that, um, and it gives you time away where people might think in general, listening to time away, or thinking, well, you don't want to play the sport constantly, and it's more again, a hot topic, just that mental grind and the mental health of players, and getting you away from maybe being under the microscope 6-7 days a week, of that performance and high level intensity, and giving yourself a chance to reset, relax, and um, but those are, very small items. 401k plans, something that probably you don't think of for athletes, but again, some of our earnings aren't like other American sports. We're not talking about millions of dollars. Sometimes we're talking about minimum salaries being, under $100,000, under $80,000. So getting guys thinking about the future, saving for the future, not necessarily retirement in terms of 401k, but also retirement from the sport, which can be, late 20s, early 30s, where you've got the rest of your life ahead of you, and all of a sudden not maybe making money that you were as an athlete. Um, yeah, again, it's been a lot of fun things to learn about, and another one that I mentioned before, moving expenses. When at the drop of a hat you could be traded and relocated for work. All of a sudden you're expected to show up for that team the next day at training, if you're traded midday after a training day, and so moving expenses, your car, you're breaking the lease, you got to figure out your house, you got to maybe a dog, kids in school, things like this. There's some things that the CBA outlines that will be covered, and make some of those headaches easier, and some of those thoughts not have to be as big of a concern, to allow a player to focus more on the on-field responsibilities.
That's a really interesting point. Drawing back to a conversation that I had with Nico Hansen earlier in the season, he was talking about the brevity with which you have to change your life situation, and for coming to Colorado, like having his life practice to a point where he can move with 2 bags and be ready to jump in, like with both feet. That I thought was just one of those things we don't necessarily see, in the press box from the stands when we're looking at a guy's jersey, debuting his name on a new jersey. And then, if I can, I don't know if this exists, but touching on your recent fatherhood, is there a paternity clause in the current CBA, or something that will be worked towards the next CBA that would let a new father have that time away?
It's a good question. I don't. if I had to guess, because I am guessing, I don't know for sure. There's no specific language to that. I obviously was lucky, and I think that comes down to probably each relationship from player to coach, player to staff, player to front office, and Chris is second to none when it comes to some of those personal relationships and having a feel for what each situation calls for. And he was great. Take as much time as you need, do whatever you need to do, let us know when it's best for you. And I missed I think our first first home game when he was born on a Thursday. I missed a Saturday, but I was in training on Sunday. So it's different for us. The paternity leave that you might expect is maybe a couple weeks away entirely. Whereas for us, if my wife was doing well, going into training for a couple hours and coming home, it is not completely out of the question. So it was again, I was very honored and blessed to just have that flexibility and understanding with Chris, but other players might not be the same. So it's a great question and is something that I don't think that we've thought about in the past necessarily. But going through it now, it hits home a little bit different and makes you think if things, medically maybe go a different direction and you want a little bit more time to have my mind be here instead of thinking about, trying to win my spot at the weekend to play. It's yeah, it's an interesting thought.
To transition us a little more to the other unions within the MLS, obviously there's other groups of workers that are organized within MLS. I think for our fans, the one that will immediately come to mind is the referees, given the referee lockout last year and having non-union refs take their spots during the ref lockout. How do your unions interact? What is y'all's relationship with the other unions? How is that solidarity built across job positions?
Yeah, not necessarily with referees and other workers kind of within the league in different departments. But I know something else that we might touch on: NWSL, USL, and even sometimes across sports. It's really helpful to just kind of use that breadth of knowledge and being able to bounce ideas off each other. Hey, how did you guys handle this negotiation? What was something that was important to you earlier on in your negotiations? The league is only what now 30 years old, not even, and leagues across this country and around the world, maybe hundreds of years. So I think again, not necessarily interacting, let's say, with the referees. Obviously, again, we stand with them in their efforts, but we don't interact as much with them. NWSL, USL, that's a different question. We've got the same mission: players first, better working conditions, and collaborating on that is most important. But yeah, it's still interesting to learn about, and as I think we all saw from the lockout, it was an impactful way to kind of for them to stand together and I assume kind of make some progress in their negotiations.
I don't know the answer to this, so I'm not entirely sure how to ask it. But when we talk about NWSL, those USL player associations that you collaborate with, I know that's through a domestic framework. Are there any instances um, where it's highly beneficial or perhaps difficult to um, collectively work with players coming in from international leagues, international unions or players associations?
Yeah, it is a challenge. I mentioned a language barrier earlier, and that's something that the Players Association does a great job of. Almost any time they come to see us in person, you've got a translator on hand, whether that's Spanish. I mean, almost everything's sent to us digitally. French. I mean, all the time. That I feel like they've got an eye to that. But it is, and I think that's the reason you end up delegating kind of a young player rep, an international player rep, just to make each of those little subdivisions within each team have their voices heard. Um, and I think that's important because I think that's how we end up getting a collective feel and those different maybe perspectives from a guy that's traveled or not played in America or been in America before, kind of understanding what the travel looks like for an away match here versus in England where they don't really fly anywhere and they take their bus rides anywhere, I don't know, from an hour to 5 hours the day before. And or even for home matches in England, sometimes they'll stay in an away stay in a hotel just to have that unity and just different working nuances that in America might be slightly different, where you've got a cross country flight that could be 5 hours as opposed to the maximum for England, maybe a 5 hour bus ride or a short flight. So um, yeah, it's a challenge for sure, but I think the PA do a great job of getting those translators, getting people to connect with, not even just language barriers, just, those barriers in general where those players are just as important to be heard and have their opinion matter.
You said young player and international player reps. Is that team by team? Is that the role you cited? I know you said Cole and Zach are also um, tied into the players union or players association.
Yeah, so that's just a subgroup which is called the bargaining committee, bargaining committee, and I think that's usually 3 to 4 people per team. Um, I think the young player rep and international player rep is something that's kind of more team by team, and if they want to go that route, we feel that we do a pretty good job of um, sitting down and having our meetings collectively and having most everybody heard, and we don't have those specific roles outlined, but um, yeah, it was only I think a couple weeks ago, maybe a month ago, that Zach, Cole, and I were on a call with, like I said, I mentioned those teams, Portland and Seattle, just to talk through some issues. So um, yeah, they do. Like I said, the structure is great, and it lends itself to, I think, being really productive in breaking down those groups really, really well.
You said you've been in your role on the team with the union for a few years now, and it's really been a wild time for labor across the board. I think we've seen unprecedented numbers of strikes. Some of the polling showing that unions are favorable amongst like younger generations, but increased unions in the news. I'm curious, like, how do players' unions fit into this larger labor movement right now?
Yeah, I think again, some of the topics that I've highlighted before, the themes I think are the same: working conditions, health and safety, a basic level of those standards across the league, and something that we might get into later is in our facility specifically, it's across the league. We're trying to push certain standards again for honoring the players who came before us and trying to leave the league in a better place for players that come after us. And I think that's the goal of unions everywhere. And yeah, I don't have a lot of knowledge of different working environments or different occupations, but an interesting story. We stayed at the Baldwin Hotel in Houston, I think, a couple years ago, and we got pulled into. I was there with one of the NWSL teams. It was myself and then a couple of reps from their team, and we went and met with a couple of hotel workers that had an interesting story where they ended up being laid off, or it was an issue where their union is looks a lot different, and their story was honestly really sad to hear, and their union is not so in the grand scheme of things, small. And, our player pool, I don't know the size of exactly, but we're represented really well with the way our groups are broken down and the way the players can speak for each other. Whereas, hotel workers across the country and that size of a union and the way that they can speak for each other and deal with case by case issues is, it almost seems impossible. And, to hear stories like that and, it makes you feel for, the common goal of unions and what the real story is behind it. And that was kind of an insight that I hadn't really had before, being a part of this, and it was a cool way that I don't know exactly how they got in touch with each other. I think it was probably because that's one of the hotels that we partner with, and going forward, I don't know that that was the case after hearing something like that. So I don't know who reached out to who, but um, and again, something that we did with NWSL, and interesting hearing from them and working with them. And I assume, the workers that we worked with there and heard from appreciated having their stories heard and felt like maybe it could make a difference. So, um, yeah, it's taken me to places I didn't really think were in my future, but
So, kind of elaborating what we talked about earlier, things that fans don't always recognize as being a an agreement between the league and its partners and the players association at the time. What is the union's role in navigating changes like the shift in game times with the Apple TV deal, or like we've touched on a bit, the big proposal for an entire season scheduling shift?
yeah, it's the way that we handle just about any of these things. Obviously, the Apple TV time changes, that's a little bit smaller in comparison to a calendar shift. But we kind of go about it the same way. They'll send out kind of just messaging to the player reps. We'll kind of get that out to the teams individually, kind of hear some feedback. What do you guys think? How do you feel about this? What are your concerns? Jot down some notes, get into small group calls and talk with each bargaining committee from a couple teams at a time. Then maybe just each player rep or executive board, and they play a really big role in, once we've got all of that kind of information and feedback garnered towards the executive board, then they can kind of give us that one voice and make us feel like we're all together. And then the league in that interaction, I think, makes us feel a lot stronger. And that negotiation ends up having a lot more of an impact, and we felt like we're heard. So, yeah, the calendar shift is going to be an interesting one. I think there's definitely pros and cons. I think a big one is that it aligns us with the rest of the world. And I think, whether it's transfer windows or, ingoing and outgoing players, I think that makes a lot of sense. Being able to take time off during international breaks, not having teams play during that, makes a lot of sense. I think it pushes our league forward in a way that it's viewed globally as a top league in the world. And on the other side, you've got real challenges that other countries might not face with the winter conditions here across the country being so big and the different climates. And that's, I don't know. I don't know what that's going to look like. I don't know how the league's going to handle that. But I know that it's been a talking point. And we'll see. I don't really have answers in terms of the timeline of that. I know they're looking at it, and we're still a part of getting feedback from teams and players, and again, just trying to voice concerns and to have these conversations to try to figure out what's best for everybody.
Do you have a sense of any way the wind is blowing from a players association standpoint, and also from your role here as a club set in Colorado standpoint for a schedule change?
I think the overall reaction has been positive. I think it will happen. I just don't know when. But I wouldn't take that to the bank. I wouldn't take my word for sure. But I think our biggest challenge here is weather through those winter months, and just being so volatile, even through I don't even know, September to May. I mean April maybe. Um, and we saw, I think, at the beginning of the year this year with Champions League, and I mean the surface kind of being frozen. I mean that's not, we talk about health and safety and working conditions. That's, those are things that other markets, Vancouver, Seattle, Montreal, Toronto, the winters, Minnesota, the winters that these teams experience, and not having indoor options, not having artificial surfaces that might lend itself better to that. Uh, yeah, it's going to be really interesting to see how they. It's just such a big country in comparison to other leagues around the world, that there's a lot of different challenges that'll be interesting to navigate.
And then just touching on one more thing that you mentioned in that, does the Players Association or you personally feel like a more lockstep approach to the global transfer market allow you to maximize your kind of player or employee value in those negotiations in getting better wage returns, or I know ROI percentages on any transfer fees? Will that set you up as players better economically?
Yeah, I mean, we haven't talked about that specifically, but my knee-jerk reaction is yes. I just think that alignment with timing, I think, just makes it more attractive from mainly the outgoing sales, and trying to buy young players, even if it's, not young American players, but just young players in general. They maybe come here to jumpstart their career, or young American players wanting to make that jump across um, different countries. I think that alignment, as opposed to our off season being in the middle of other team seasons, I just think makes a lot more sense. And I think it would, I think it would aid, and lend itself to, maybe better transfers for players. But then also, again, some of those fees are realized by teams. So yeah, I would say yes.
Another hot button topic coming up this season is around player compensation and revenue percentages, especially for like the increasing amount of tournaments and exhibitions we're seeing. Can you break down what is that issue and give us an idea about how the negotiations to rectify has been going?
Yeah, I think most recently with the Club World Cup and obviously being, hosted by us, it was interesting to see those teams involved in that. Um, and I think in general, the issue is, adding in more games, adding in, a more difficult schedule, whether that's travel, whether that's just games in general. The players want to be compensated for that. And I think by the end of it, it came down to a percentage going to the club and a percentage going to the players, and that back and forth was, well, we think it should be this and this, and I think they got to a place where they did feel fairly compensated. I think both parties were happy, and yeah, I think sometimes as players, our frustration is we feel our work is just as important, if not more, than the people that work around the club, especially when the reason you get into these tournaments is for performance on the field. So I think you can see both sides. It's interesting to, again, work with any of these negotiations, and most of those were only had by the teams involved, which makes some sense. But um, I think the other thing is people say, for American teams, oh, you guys play at most with every competition involved, maybe 50, 60 games, whereas teams in other countries in Europe and the highest level play maybe 80, 90 with their international games. And that's fair. However, their seasons are much longer. They've got much shorter off season. They've got a lot more time to work with. So it's not one's better than the other. It's more so just kind of apples to oranges at times with how much time, with our extended off season, that those fixtures can be shoved into a midweek and a weekend and a midweekend. And, as I get older, I certainly understand how much more difficult that is to go game on, game off. And like we saw with, Leagues Cup last year, we ended up playing 7 extra games. I think it was like I don't even know, Thursday, Sunday, almost, 4 weeks in a row. So, yeah, I think that's the gist of it, and I think those teams ended up getting to a place where they were happy with what came of it.
Just drawing on that, because I know kind of the flashpoint of this issue in the public eye was when the Sounders players came out with the shirts that said, I believe it was Club World Cash Grab. As a players union, as players, do you feel particularly empowered or at least safeguarded to kind of make displays like that where you think the treatment is not commensurate with what you're putting into it?
Yeah, personally, again, these were more kind of obviously each team worked closely with the association and trying to figure out what was best and how to make a statement and how to, again, get what you want out of the negotiation and just the protest in general. So I personally and our team didn't have a ton of insight into what goes into that, but um, yeah, I think even with back to like Black Lives Matter and some of the shirts that we were wearing going into the pandemic and during those times, I think, and even back to some of your questions about unions and athlete unions versus unions in general, I think the unique thing about athlete unions and just athletes in general is the platform and the way that they're viewed and the way that um, people look to them, and not always, again, maybe with the Black Lives Matter, not always politically are they looking for that messaging to come from athletes, but certainly there's a lot of eyes on the guys that in the Sounders team that wear these shirts and at least get people talking and are really curious about what that means and why would they feel like they need to wear a shirt for this, and that's the whole point. It's just to get conversations going and put some pressure on the other side, um and in that instance, yeah, I think they did feel like this was going to help us. I think they felt pushed to a point where we need to do something about this, and this is the best way to go about it. And we were in support of that. And I think, again, I think they ended up being happy with what came of it.
So personally, how do you feel about the fixture congestion? You still very much are a young soccer player, but you are one of the elder statesmen on this team. Where do you think the balance is from a player physicality standpoint of being able to play X amount of games and recuperate well enough that you don't see debilitating body ailments?
Yeah, it's a really difficult one to answer. Even this year we had it felt like half the teams in Leagues Cup, half the teams in Open Cup, just to avoid entirely teams going through both competitions and getting a midweek stretch where you're playing every Saturday, Wednesday for weeks on end. I don't know if it would be unpopular, but I think more games, more competitions. I think I like it. Maybe not to a fault. Maybe not so much where we're talking about health and safety of players, but I think it pushes the league in a way where teams now need to build their rosters, thinking depth, thinking better quality, all the way down to player 25. And it's more exposure and opportunities for guys to play in different competitions. I think then you rotate more. You rotate your lineups more. You get different guys involved. But obviously there's a point where the safety and the way that fixture congestion here is different is the travel. And let's say we play Wednesday in Los Angeles. We are lucky enough now to have chartered flights, which is amazing. However, with the time difference and when our flight takes off from the West Coast to get to here, I'm probably in my bed by 4 a.m. So then you come back Thursday. Do you go into the training facility to train, even though you've only slept maybe 4 or 5 hours? Friday, we talk about as players, after you've played 90 minutes, usually 2 days after, you kind of feel your worst once all that lactic acid kind of settles in, and the travel again from the constriction that happens at high altitudes when you're flying, and the dehydration. And people feel that when they fly commercially, just recreationally, let alone after a high output aerobically. And that Friday training session is a real challenge, and all of a sudden 72 hours afterwards, you're looking to kick off again. So it's a hard one. It's a double-edged sword. I think it's good in a certain regard to push the league and to force teams and to force the league to adapt in a way where teams are now more able to spend and build and think about roster depth, think about the way they use their second team or their affiliate team. But at the same time, yeah, I mean, maybe that's a pretty diplomatic answer that doesn't really give you either way. But I I don't think even I don't know what year it was, maybe LAC when they were involved in almost every competition towards a final. Um, I don't think they were pushed to a point where they were, really protesting.
Given that, what sort of valves or levers does the Players Association have to kind of mitigate that? I know there's been talk about more like regionality in how we schedule, also expanding roster sizes, maybe increasing an extra substitute in a game. Are there any mechanisms you think that have yet to been tapped to alleviate that?
Um, yeah, I don't know how much control and input we have into some of those things. I think that's more, FIFA and the governing body of soccer in general. But I do think, kind of like I was alluding to before, is just the roster build and the rules that we have around spending, maybe amount of contracted first team players or senior players, and the amount of spending allocated for certain reserve contract spots or senior contract spots, DP slots, young DP slots, these U22 contracts, all these different ways to, I think, broadening that and maybe making rosters bigger is only going to help that. But that's really my only answer, I think, for that one.
Yeah, no worries. I appreciate it. The Players Association just had elections for the at-large seats that were recently vacated. Christian Espinoza and Dane St. Clair were elected to those vacant positions. Can you give us kind of an inside look at what that looks like? I know you've talked specifically about your history with the Players Association as your leadership and your personality style being recognized as apt for that role. Then how do you as player reps elect your executive board members? What are the assets you're looking for there?
Yeah. So each player rep for each team, like myself, if no one else wants to run, there doesn't really need to be a vote. But if another person wants to run, then we would have a vote inside our locker room. And then once each player rep is elected, every single player rep across the league has a secret ballot towards the vacant positions for the executive board. And there's no real campaigning process. I think it's more so, being in the league for a long time, getting to interact with different teams and players and staff after games or different away trips, going away with national teams or things like that, and hearing things from other people. It ends up being a pretty small, tight knit group across the entire player pool, and you end up feeling like you know just about everybody. So I'm really happy for those guys, and again, challenging their leadership and the way they represent the league. And I think they'll do a great job.
So, bringing the union stuff maybe a little closer to home, in the 2023 season, it was reported that the league had received complaints through MLSPA regarding the facilities at Dick's Sporting Goods Park. The team at the time put out a statement to Burgundy Wave about its intended improvements, feasibility study, ongoing dialogue. So, we're 2 years past that. What, if any, improvements have you seen, and where is there still work to do?
Yeah, I don't want to get into too many specifics, just out of respect for the club, because these aren't things that are egregious. These aren't things where we needed to protest in a way to make things ugly. But at the same time, when I talked about standards and trying to leave the league in a better place, we felt comparatively that we had fell behind a little bit in just workplace standards and different, very, very small topics around, training facility, medical staff or equipment, or just different qualities of things around, what we do daily. And to their credit, things have improved vastly. Our meal room right now looks entirely different. We've got a new catering company, the food quality, the layout of the meal room, and just the way that, they've got this player kind of first thought process has been really welcomed by us, as you can imagine, and really exciting to watch, and especially myself, even thinking back to 2019, how some things have changed and how the staff kind of, not necessarily technical staff, but front office staff and operations staff look after us and are trying to push the club forward. And at times, even that's out of their control with the way that different clubs operate, ownership to club staff, to the way things get approved and the way budgeting is working in the bigger picture of things is I don't have insight to that, and I can't even imagine how difficult some of those conversations are for approval, and what they may think is really, really important to us and probably feel and sympathize with us might not make any sense to people up at the top and the people that they report to. So give a lot of credit to the people that look out for us and that have worked for us, and things have gotten a lot better. And it's not going to stop us from at times trying to push things forward, because I think that's what's most important. Again, is trying to not disregard all those, for instance, Marcelo. Marcelo's been really popular this past month with his jersey retirement, and I can't imagine if we sat down and talked with him, speaking about workplace conditions and some of the things that he would talk through around the league, and the way they would travel, or the way that a match day would look, or what the Rapids match day experience looks like, or the locker room, the training pitches, the turf fields, or just all these things is it's interesting to learn about through the young history of the league, where we've come and where we're going, and it's exciting. It's exciting to feel like we're pushing it in a positive direction, and I think the guys after us will be really appreciative of it.
I really appreciate that answer. And I think, again, for a lot of fans, we don't think of Dick's Sporting Goods Park as a workplace, right? We think of it as where we go to drink beers and cheer on the Rapids. So I appreciate that context. And it brings up another question for me. And that is around, I think, what is unique about soccer is the interaction with supporters sections. And obviously, at the end of the day, we all want the same thing. We want 3 points. We want cups, right? But around that same time, you saw a protest from C38 with folks walking out of the stadium after a particularly rough year. If you can talk to us a little bit about what that was like, but also how can supporters groups, which are kind of weirdly a fan union, work in tandem with a players union, really to make sure that, for all working people, that MLS stays as as a sport for the people, right? Yeah, talk to me a little bit about that.
Yeah, I think it's less with the players union, and it's more so with the players. The amount that we hear their voice, hear their opinions, hear their concerns, a small part of us is kind of rooting for them, that we want the best for them also, and just like we're fighting for our workplace conditions and trying to challenge the club to move things forward and hold a certain standard and comparatively look at themselves with other teams around the league that they're not falling behind. I think the fans want the same, and we want that for them because I've said it before, certainly, but they're the most important thing at the club and at every club. And they're why what we do is so much fun, why the match day is so much fun. None of that. I mean, we felt it during the pandemic, that match day experience and even the broadcast and the televised product is just so much different and so lifeless and unfortunately not the same. It can't be replicated. And, even the crowd noise that was pumped in, you saw sometimes it's so artificial, but, yeah, we've had different interactions with some of our supporters over the years, sometimes around the Rocky Mountain Cup, getting to hear from them, coming to speak to us at training, voicing their passion. And for me or for homegrowns, that is sometimes not a surprise or not new to hear. But for some of these guys that just joined the team or from different countries or different teams around the league that maybe don't have a relationship with the supporters group, it's amazing. And I think it's so cool. I think it's a unique thing about the club, and I think I can't speak for the fans, but I think the club has done a good job in trying to reach out, trying to extend themselves, trying to make the match day experience better, trying to honor the supporters, honor people that have been with the club for a long time. And if not, maybe I'm speaking out of turn, but I do feel like they've felt that shift, and if not, we've gotten great support in person and at our games. So if not, they're really stubborn and they like us enough to kind of look past that and still support us, which we love. But yeah, we try our hardest. We have some events through the year to try to honor them, to try to interact with them each game. We try to get out to them. It's been a big focus since Chris has come to just, doesn't matter the result, get out to those people. Those kids in the stands have zero interest in what that result is. They just want to see your face. They just want to get an autograph. I'm signing shoes and different clothing items. It's just really fun to meet those people and feel that community kind of interaction and just how much they love us. It's so cool.
Well, I think Centennial 38 would take no problem with being called a little stubborn in their support. So uh, we'll take it. I think that is our last official question. I have one last request. And again, I am blindsiding you a little bit with this because it just came up. So you can say hell no and we'll end the episode. But Colorado Springs teachers with the Colorado Springs Education Association just announced that they're going on a one-day strike this fall after their school board ended their union contract. I was wondering if you would like to, or if you have a message for those Colorado Springs teachers who are going to be walking the picket line here in a few weeks.
Yeah, I would encourage them, stand strong. You stick together. The more together, the more people that you guys show up, the more unified that they all seem, the stronger that voice and that strike is gonna be. And clearly, something that drives a certain group of people to strike is important enough to fight for. And I hope that they get what they want from that. And man, I've got a soft spot for teachers for sure, and educators across the country. It's a thankless job for sure, and yeah, I'm rooting for them.
Well, Keegan, do you have any final
Thank you.
thoughts? Anything you want the listeners to know?
I don't think so, but if they're fans of the team, we love you guys, and bring your friends. Get your friends, get your family involved, and we might not get the results all the time, but I think the match day experience is fun. I think we as players try to interact with as many people as we can on each match day, and because of that, I think we can keep people coming back. So we look forward to seeing everybody, and thanking everyone is just as important to us. So yeah, thank you to the listeners, thank you to the fans. You guys are the best.
Well, Keegan, thank you for taking the time. Kinsey and Gabby for setting everything up. We, again, really appreciate you.
Of course. Yeah. Thank you guys. It's fun to talk to you.
Yeah, and thanks for all your work of growing our labor movement, making sure that workers have great working conditions. And yeah, we're with you. And if there's ever a fight, know that we'll be beside you.
My pleasure. Thank you guys.
was a great interview, Sarah. Also, because of the way you introed it, I couldn't help but think that Devin should start a hot dog grillers union for all the supporters groups around the United States. Like, they should all get together, like grill masters,
Grill
and
Masters
unite.
United.
But no, Keegan put a lot of work into getting prepped for that interview and making sure that he represented the Players Association to the best of his ability, and we appreciate and respect him so much for that. I think anyone that's spent any time around Keegan knows that his work ethic and his commitment to whatever cause he's working on at that point is unrivaled.
And I know that just a bit of a shameless plug, the labor movement is alive and well, and you'll hear that I asked Keegan in the end of this interview. Colorado Springs teachers who had a contract for 56 years, their contract recently was ended by their district. And so they have announced just yesterday that they are going to do a one-day strike as a part of an escalation plan to win back their contract. So if you live in Colorado Springs or want to head up to Colorado Springs, Wednesday, October 8th, all Colorado Springs teachers will be out on strike. And the fight for the working class lives on.
The revolution begins here at PIDCAST.
PIDCAST call to arms. Just kidding.
Yeah, instead of like the revolution will be televised, it's the revolution will be podcasted. That's the true sign of our times. You can find the revolution anywhere you get your podcasts.
We continue to weave in these bigger issues, but like frankly, this is just the community that we're in, right? We have players who, our community and who are impacted by gun violence. We have union workers who are playing our game. Like this sport is really a reflection of the broader community, and that's why we keep going there, kids. Kids is apparently my word of the day. So anyways, on to fantasy, kids.
I'm going to go on strike if you keep calling me a kid.
Lost Boys on strike.
Done. Bangarang.
Bangarang. Well, on to fantasy.
I didn't tell you. Wait. Because you saw the Rob Holding said the secret word this past week when he said bangarang in the So I took Rob one of our new bangarang shirts, and I was like, Rob, Pee Wee Herman style, you said the magic word of the episode. And he goes, yeah, what is bangarang? And I was like, well, let me tell you, it's the soccer nonprofit that we've started. And I found out that Rob's introduction to bangarang is through a golf podcast, or I think a golf YouTuber, who whenever a birdie happens shouts bangarang. So Rob Holding, who is an avid golfer, if you will, learned about the line from Hook through golf, which is just a sentence I never thought I would have said.
I think we now need to find him a Hook DVD.
Yes.
And bring him a DVD.
He said he's got a camp chair and a TV, so
we got this.
Yeah.
All right, well, let's transition into our fantasy segment. So far, we've had a fun start to the fantasy week, using week very loosely. So as we talked about last episode, this round of fantasy, or what we call a week in fantasy, is a game week, is actually a compilation of 2 weeks, which means the first half of the week is over, and all of those double game week teams have already played their first round of games. Briefly, Matt, any highlights from the game so far?
Like we talked about, I pretty much put all of my double game weekers on the bench in Zinkernagel, Musa, and Jovic. They all got 7 points for me. It's kind of like hitting a slot machine, 777. Hill was going to be in my lineup either way, even if he was a single game week. But his 9 points, I put the captain ban on him. So I'm sitting with 18 from him on the bench going into this week, only hoping to get more as they face Toronto. The best part for me was I started the Dallas goalkeeper, Kaladi, who is sitting with -2 because I guess decided he wanted to YOLO it and get a red card. I need to go back and watch the footage to see if we're going to send him a red card FC hat.
Is it good enough? I will clarify that Matt did not start the Dallas keeper because, like a smart player, he also had him on the bench. So what is good about that? So actually, if you looked at the games, we had no clean sheets in this first round of games. So if you went with defenders or goalkeepers, hopefully they were on your bench. For me, I had one on my bench. I did have one defender on my field, but he got a 4, so I'm okay with it. Yeah, so we saw a lot of goals, though, and I think I'll give you a shout out. You were the one that said Joveljic from Kansas City. You couldn't imagine him getting through this week without some goals. Already put one on the board, so hopefully you listened to Matt and went ahead and put him on your field or on your bench. Similarly, I have the armband on heel. I actually went a little deeper on the double game week players than you did, but it did serve me. So I have Pulskamp as my sub goalkeeper. He only got 1 point, but I'll be able to transition to another player. Currently have it on Fry, but I'll think that one through. I have Hartel and Kuipers, right? Coopers on my Kuipers, Colorado. Kuipers.
Jeepers, creepers.
Queepers. I have Hartel and Queepers on my bench, so I have 17 points I'll be looking to pull onto the field from my bench. Joveljic is one of my my forwards, and then I did have Zinkernagel in the middle of my field. So I'm feeling really good about my midfield and forward decisions on this double game week. What's nice about this is that like all these 7s, 8s, and 9s I'm seeing, assuming that they play most of a game, will get, if nothing else, 2 more points. And I'm happy walking away with players getting between 9 and 11 points. So good start to the week for me. And I'm going to spend a little bit more time really thinking through my single game week players, but I think I have them pretty set at this point.
Yeah, that Hartel pick was a good pick. That's the only one I missed on. And if I look closer, seeing St. Louis playing Montreal as the second leg of that, and I will point out that I am playing Kev of Kev's Churro crew, and he not only captained heel, hit Zickernagel, Musa, and Joveljic like I did, but he started Hartel, so he's looking a lot stronger going into this weekend's slate of games in my matchup with him. So this could be my second loss of the season.
You can't sleep on Kev.
No, he's the one that's going to knock us off. He's just been
totally true.
letting us attack each other, and then he'll coast through to victory here at the end of the season.
He beat me a few weeks ago, so I definitely mad respect to Kev. That Hartel pick was actually a last minute one when one of my players from Houston, I liked Houston in that Galaxy matchup, and then he wasn't starting, and so I made that last minute switch to Hartel.
McGlynn, did you have?
I think that's who it was. Yeah.
Okay.
So, we talked a little bit about games you're looking forward to next week. Do you want to, or this coming week? Do we want to just highlight a few of them again?
Yeah. So as we use fantasy to do our MLS look around, I did want to point out that there are some matchups this week that are important to the Rapids for our playoff seeding implications. Just going down the slate of games, San Jose versus LAFC is an important matchup to watch. We're probably not going to catch LAFC. We could, but San Jose is 1 point behind us in the standings. So we need LAFC to do us a solid and keep San Jose down. Moving next. Go ahead.
Yeah, I think that's a fun game to watch. Everyone's enjoying watching Sun play anyways. So you might as well put that game in on, as much as it might break your soul, root for LAFC in.
Yeah, and I mean, that goes back to, I think we touched on this, and I know some of the other guys have talked about it on their shows, but it's counterintuitive, but an LAFC that has 0 to play for, the last match of the season, would be good for the Rapids. Come October 18th, they're already set. They want to rest for the playoffs. We probably still need those 3 points in that game. So LAFC winning, San Jose losing, that's just a double good outcome for us. Next matchup is FC Dallas versus Austin. In this one, we want Austin to lose. Theoretically, FC Dallas could catch us. They are only 5 points below us in the table, but Austin is 2 spots in the table above us in 6th place and 5 points above us in total points. So FC Dallas keeping Austin down would be very helpful for us. Slalis Abubakar, our king, 3 header goals.
Absolutely. And as much as we never want to root for Texas, this is a fun little Texas derby to watch for sure. Dallas is like one of those OG 96 teams going against highly funded newer expansion team. I'm comfortable rooting for the home team in FC Dallas here and hoping that Austin stays behind us in the league.
Yeah, and I mean, it depends on how we want FC Dallas to feel about themselves because we also play them next week. So something to be mindful of. As we go down the matchup slate again, Sounders versus Galaxy is another one.
Wait, does that mean we're rooting for sorry to backtrack. So we want we want FC Dallas to win in a way that doesn't give them any ego boost. Like we want to own goal situation or a shabby 90-minute 1-0.
Well, no, we want 3 Lawless Abubakar set piece header goals because while he's amazing at those, that's probably not the most sustainable way to win. So they can't just carbon copy replicate that against us next week. And then
also, he's basically still one of us. We have his number.
Oh yeah,
he can't pull that shit on us. We know his game.
Well, so this is one thing I forgot to cover in PIDDER Chatter is we have a double header this Saturday. So the Rapids play Houston Dynamo, and then directly after the game, Rapids Unified plays Houston Dynamo Unified. And I'm just imagining if this was the week where we were playing Rapids and Rapids Unified versus FC Dallas and Dallas Unified, because the Unified team was so much of Lawless Abubakar's baby. He just put so much into it, and you could see the joy that exuded from him when he participated with this group. So that would have just been perfect scheduling. Nonetheless, we expect you there for the doubleheader on Saturday. The other games we're looking at, Sounders versus Galaxy. That's one where Sounders losing helps us. They're probably too far ahead of us right now. They have an 8-point lead, but I don't want to bank on us winning out the next 5, or not bank on us winning out the next 5 and that becoming something that is important at the end of the playoff seeding race. The big one to stay tuned to is Sporting Kansas City and FSL. We need SKC to stay hot. If they can beat us, they can definitely beat Salt Lake. And beating Salt Lake will help keep FSL with nothing more to play for on October 4th than the Rocky Mountain Cup, which is fine. I mean, I just don't want them to know they're playing for the cup and potentially a playoff berth. I'd rather them still be on the outside, really not looking in. And then the final one is Portland versus Chris Armis's former team in the New York Red Bulls. Red Bulls could do us a solid and keep Portland down because Portland is directly ahead of us in the standings. They're in 7th place with only a 3-point lead, so we could draw even. I think they'd still be ahead of us in tiebreakers right now, but I would love to see that. Any players from those matchups or playoff implications you're looking at, Sarah?
Yeah, not looking so much at the playoff implications, but for defenders, I am really I already had one defender play and I have a scrub defender on my bench or on my field. So I am really looking at players that are consistent on points. We've talked about it the last few games. I'm not doing a good job finding clean sheets. I don't know if you all are. I'm not. So I'm sticking with Kai Wagner. I know he's playing against Vancouver. I'm not planning on Philly shutting out Vancouver. I'm planning on Kai Wagner getting involved in a scoring play, which he is wont to do. So looking through the midfield, again, I like Dreyer's play. I like his form, so I'm going with Dreyer and Mukhtar as my remaining single game week midfielders. So that's just kind of like a glimpse of what I'm trying to do. Again, really not chasing those clean sheets. I'll think through what a clean sheet could look like for my goalkeeper. Although, as you brought up, I have Fry, and it'll be a little conflicting because I want the clean sheet, but I also want Galaxy to beat Seattle.
Yeah, good call on defenses. I didn't see a lot defensively that I was optimistic about. As it sits right now, I've got Kai Wagner, which just seems like if you play fantasy, you just leave him on your bench like you have to. I've got Dante Seeley, who's a player I really enjoy. You guys probably remember him from his Club World Cup breakout, or not Club World Cup, the CONCACAF Cup, when he broke out for Trinidad and Tobago. I also have Mohamed Farsi right now. I think his wingback role against Atlanta would be offensively super beneficial. The two, and one of them is a carryover from 2 weeks ago is I'm really considering putting Rafa Santos in my lineup, like starting. Like, he had 2 assists last week. He looks to have that offensive prowess, but the kind of the deep knowledge one that I'm looking at is starting Rob Holding, because Rob Holding has had some really good set piece header looks. If you remember in his debut, he almost had 2. And then I was watching him Tuesday in training. He was doing some extracurricular shooting practice, and like, dude could not miss. The trainers were literally like moving the goal off the field to like break down practice. So Rob was just hitting a barrage of shots from like all sorts of different angles, and they're just all going in just without a second thought. So what we have is Holding getting to play this weekend against a Houston goalkeeper, Jonathan Bond, who is one of his best friends, which I think is definitely going to play into that matchup. I think, if anything, Rob is going to come out and say, like, I want to score on my mate. Like, I want that bragging right in all of our group texts. So when we this will come out when we get to score predictions, but I think we're going to get a Rob Holding goal.
I think you're burgundy pilled, but that's okay. I want you to be right. That's not the direction I'm going to go. I just don't see a spot for, honestly. Okay, so here's the thing. I like playing Rapids. I like to put them on my bench because I don't trust my objectivity in assessing them in fantasy. Georgie was fun. Georgie is gone. That being said, I filled my bench with double game week players, so I just don't want to. I don't feel like in a week where we could have had double game week players that there is a single Rapid in a single game who I think is going to put up more points than several of these double game week players who I could have already played and honestly probably did. I have a lot less space left on my field than you do.
I mean, I think I've taken Monk's burgundy pill role in this fantasy lineup because I'm also looking at my current midfield. Not my bench that are double game week.
Putting
My current
Paxton
midfield,
on, huh?
exactly. Like, who's coming off for Medford Messi? Like, Paxton looked on another level last game, and
You're going to put
this is
Paxton
his
over a
homecoming,
Mukhtar or a Dryer. That's to
or an
me.
Ojeda.
Oh, Ojeda.
I don't know. I don't know.
On my field.
I don't know. Crazier things have happened.
Crazier have, and I think like I'm having those are moves I would do if we were coming up on the end of a fantasy qualifier round and I was like just outside the 50 and I knew I had to like break chalk in order to move up against people, right? I got nothing to prove. I am having a mediocre year. I am just trying to move up my total scores. I'm just not interested in blowing a week on fantasy because Mukhtar gets 2 goals and Paxton Harrison still doesn't find the back of the net, right? And then I fall 10, 12, 14 points behind everyone else.
Well, maybe I'll put my seat at the top of the table at risk for my burgundy chalk this week. We'll see. TBD.
Kev,
Kevin,
you
if
heard
you're
that.
listening,
Come for him.
Kevin's
Rip him
definitely
apart.
listening
Destroy
and knows
him.
my lineup now.
You are not susceptible to this Rapids bullshit. You know. You make those churros. You set that lineup with the intellect you've been bringing all season.
Right now, while Sarah's doing her ASMR, she's also in Chat GPT trying to create a GIF of Kevin hitting me over the head with a churro.
Oh.
Hey, I've been nothing but complimentary to Kev, his fantasy skills, and his churro prowess. So if I lose, then it couldn't be to a better opponent, especially one that doesn't play
Mercy,
Messi.
Kevin, mercy. That's you at the end of this week.
I'm setting the table to be a gracious loser when it happens.
Shout out to Kev. And also, next time you play me, you're going down, kid.
Do we play each other the rest of the season?
I don't know,
we
but
have to, right? At least once?
Listeners, Matt and I play the very last game of the season. So
in the open league, the head-to-head,
in the
or
head-to-head.
daddy bracket?
In the head-to-head.
Oh man. So I'm your LAFC in this one, and you're the Rapids.
Excuse me.
Are there?
What is your Colorado ranking right now? I shouldn't have asked that because I think mine's lower than it's been for a while. I'm in
My
sixth.
Colorado Rapids official ranking. I
you're in 10.
am. Oh, you can see mine. I can't even find mine yet.
Okay, so this is a fun for most of our players who play in our league and like regularly set your team. You'll be excited to see how high you rank in the Colorado official league. So within the app, if you go to leagues, you'll see that you're automatically enrolled in the overall and then whatever league your whatever team crest you have. So you can go in there and you can look and see what your overall rank is for Colorado out of the 300 Colorado players. Hopefully that's more next year. 257. But if you click there, you can see all of the different players and how they rank. All the different teams and how they rank in Colorado. And also see the really cool names like Cold-Blooded Killers. It's a good one.
I need to figure out which team is Matt Pollard, because I feel like he's got to be a fantasy stud.
Well, listeners should know and consider this an official call out to Holding the High Line in Burgundy Wave. Matt Pollard is not in this because Matt Pollard plays under an LA Galaxy crest. So.
But we did throw down the gauntlet, and I believe both Braden Nurse from Denver Post and Commerce City Radio and Matt Pollard and I believe Keith Richards have all agreed to do our media league next season, our Bloodbath League.
So listeners, be ready to join a league with some of your favorite podcast hosts. And thank you for listening to the PIDCAST, where 100% of your hosts play under the Colorado badge.
Ooh. Oh, we got to get Mike and Drew in the league too. We can throw down. Yeah.
Now that we've been canceled by Burgundy Wave, let us go on to our Houston preview.
You've done a lot of dancing this episode. I hope listeners, you should pull up the episode on YouTube or watch it, because we do post the video episodes on Spotify too. So you can watch it as a video episode. You're going to see a lot of Sara's dancing.
So Alejandro, friend of the pod, enemy of Fitouri, does watch the video and then sends me screenshots when he thinks I'm distracted or like looking at a phone, and he's like, what were you doing here? Was Matt being boring? Or he like puts little like quote bubbles with like his captions on it. So he's forcing me to like make eye contact with the camera more. I see you, Alejandro.
Alejandro has to be officially like an executive producer or director of the pod, because he does give the most like critically sound feedback to us.
Yeah. Yeah. Like I said, friend of the pod, enemy of Fitouri this week.
You know who else is an enemy of Fitouri? The Houston Dynamo.
All right. Well, Rapids.
Can we point out, if we're going to, hold on. No. I want to point out on Houston, the Dynamo stole the name. The Colorado Dynamo was a soccer team I think it was maybe even the Denver Dynamo, long before the Houston Dynamo. So we want our swag back.
When I hear Dynamo, I just think of like the little kids' chicken nuggets that were shaped like dinosaurs. I don't know. I
think of like a person that, what's the like triple threat? The person that can like sing, act, and dance, like a entertainment dynamo. Yeah. I don't know.
Like they're like yeah. Okay, fire.
Yeah.
Well, here to perform, or hopefully not perform this weekend, the Rapids are returning home to play the Houston Dynamo at Dick's Sporting Goods Park this weekend. Of course, going into this game, Colorado Rapids are sitting in 8th. Houston are 2 spots below in number 10. Rapids, of course, just above the line, and Houston just below. Matt, you want to give us a little breakdown of the stats going into this game?
Yeah, so this game is a 6-point game for us. Houston is currently in 10th place in the table with 33 points. We are 8th place in the table with 36 points. We're kind of a wash in our recent form. We have 2 wins to Houston's 1 win, but we also have 3 losses to Houston's 3 draws. So this is a match that can go either way. We've seen Jack McGlynn be a player that has really come into form this season. Also, we've got Emeka Inali, Ponce is on a goal-scoring streak, and then the Colorado kid, Griffin Dorsey, at wingback. So I would absolutely expect he will have a huge contingent in the stands rooting for him. So you might have to boo extra hard on the side if you guys don't know the Colorado tradition of booing the right and left backs. But I think all in all, what we're looking at is, as much as I hate to say it, given the last two matches, a game that the Rapids should win. I think if we don't play 8 minutes where we turn the controller off, like, this should be something we can do. I talked to Chris this week, and even in the Kansas City match, which was a hugely deflating loss, there was a lot offensively to be excited about. And I think bringing that home, we're going to see the home debuts of Paxton Aronson and Rob Holding. This is going to be a really exciting match for Rapids fans, and being it's an early September game, I think it's probably going to be beautiful weather.
Yeah, I think that it does feel differently when we talk about coming home for a home game against a team we should beat. I just think that we've had, I don't know. I'm trying to find anything optimistic to say about why I should believe a team that just lost to Kansas City and Galaxy are going to beat Houston. But yeah, I am actually feeling okay going into this game. I think that Rapids are going to want to perform at home. So I'm hopeful.
Yeah, I love that. I love you bringing us back down to earth. Like, I get where you're going with this one, but also, like, this, yeah.
Well, truly, I was like trying to figure out what my analysis was going to be, right? And if I'm looking through this Houston recent play, right? Okay, they tie Galaxy. Embarrassing. You really should beat Galaxy. Oh, whoops. Never mind. Beat St. Louis at home or against St. Louis in St. Louis, which, but St. Louis hasn't been a great team. You know, I'm kind of peeking through some of their matchups. Tied Austin. Embarrassing again. You should beat Austin. But they also have shown up just fine against some really good teams, you know, tying Vancouver. So this team feels like a mixed bag in some ways. I think we're also a mixed bag. If you were trying to assess who the Rapids are and whether you would beat us, you would look at some of our recent matchups and be like, which freaking Rapids is going to show up to this game? So I'm really curious.
If I'm looking more through the stats now, and we have an identical 1.31 goals per match. However, we concede 0.166 goals per match to Houston's 1.62. Now we're really splitting margins.
It means that we could get an extra goal in on them. I'll take that.
No, we concede more than they do.
Shit.
Yeah, that means they can get an extra goal. That's how numbers work, Sarah.
Listen, I'm trying so hard to hear for anything optimistic.
I mean, the optimistic thing is I think the guys are pissed off. I think they were really working on intensity and tempo at the training I was at this week. I think they know their playoff berth is on the line, and they're going to come home and get the job done. I think especially Rafa Navarro performs well against Texas teams. So we've got a informed striker who should excel. We've got Paxton Aronson, who I think is taking heat off of the entire front of the Rapids offense and opening up space for more goals. I think the back line is going to have had a bit more time to gel together. I think Rob Holding really, as he said, kind of is that coach on the field sort of center back. Like, he's really been enforcing the details for that back line. And I think we're going to see a much improved Rapids team come Saturday.
I am searching for a stat that falls in our favor. And I was like, what about number of clean sheets? Rapids have 7 clean sheets. Houston has 7 clean sheets. Like, every stat I look up are too close.
Yeah, our striker is better. Our midfield's better. Our back line probably needs to get a little more acquainted to each other. Still wish we'd kept Griffin Dorsey in the system.
Yeah, I mean, I think what I'm looking at is potential, right? We saw a lot of things starting to build last game. And so what isn't included in all of the stats we're looking up is Rob Holding and Paxton Aronson and Hafecito.
Hafito, not Havasito.
Hafito?
Hafito. I don't know if it, yeah. This was a Chris Armas creation. I haven't asked Hafa Santos yet if he's down with Hafito. I mean, Hafa Navajo kind of has like the Bad Bunny thing going on, so we could have like Mal Conejo and like Bien Conejo or Bueno. Good Bunny, Bad Bunny. Was that the thing we could have?
Welcome to your MLS career. The fans have given you the nickname Good Bunny.
'Cause he's got up.
He runs like a little rabbit. Like he's got energy. He's the energy bunny. Maybe that's it. He's the Energizer Bunny.
He's the Energizer Bunny?
Bad Bunny and Energizer Bunny.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I mean, the Energizer Bunny, that's a lot to say.
Listen, fans, we're fucking this one up. Clearly, send us a message. Hold on, rewind, because we shouldn't use that. We're clearly messing this one up. Send us a message with your perfect nickname for our newest Hafa on the team, because we need one.
Yeah, I know, Hafa Santos, you're listening to this in the Portuguese translation. So definitely let us know what your preferred nickname is. Or what? How about this? We'll ask Hafa Navajo to nickname Hafa Santos and vice versa, Hafa Santos to nickname Hafa Navajo. And then we'll ask Alexi Manyoma to just nickname them both.
We'll go with Alexis.
That's a name we didn't talk about in PIDDER Chatter, but Alexi Manyoma at training on Tuesday was just, first off, he's hilarious. He's loud. He's vivacious. Like we've said before, he is all smiles. But he was also just really fun to watch on the ball and on the wing at training. I think he's going to be an exciting player that the Rapids are really going to enjoy. I think he's going to be the type that really feeds off the crowd and gives back that energy.
Well,
you want to do score predictions, Sarah? I can't find any other stats.
Yeah. I'm sick of doing an analysis that says, hey, we should win this game, and then coming back and trying to explain why everything went wrong. So here's what I'm going to say. Maybe we'll win this game. And then hopefully that attitude is what leads us to a W.
Turn that M for maybe into a W.
Meh. Win. It's home. This is our first time seeing Paxton Aronson at home, right? Yeah, I think he's got to hit the back of that net, right? Like, how fun. Hopefully it's at the half that is going towards the south side, and he could put one in the net right in front of the supporter section. Beer flies through the sky. What color will the smoke be? Maybe green, because I do love that green smoke. So let's go with 2-0 Rapids, she says with all of the confidence she has. Paxton, and you know what? Cole is clearly taking a leadership role. He has a 10 who can give him opportunities. I want to see Cole get one. Honorable mention Larraz, because he played his freaking heart out last week.
He always plays his heart out.
Yeah, so he's going to get one eventually. But I think it's time for Cole.
Okay.
Cole's cooking.
I do think that Paxton being more pressing minded and having a higher defensive work rate really frees up Cole to be more of that like bombardier that he is coming downhill at the goal. I was just checking something because of what you said. We scored 3 goals in the Marcelo Balboa match, which means they probably have a little bit more green smoke left. Probably green smoke this week.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Is that the tiebreaker? Color of smoke?
Well, it lets us know that we've elected a new pope.
Is it Paxton Aronson? We've elected a new 10. It's Paxton.
Just start calling him like Cardinal Aronson. I think
Man.
Rapids. I think Rapids win this one and get a clean sheet. I'm gonna go 3-0. Goal Rob Holding. Goal Paxton Aronson. Goal Hafito. I'm going to all the new kids.
Honest answer. Do you sometimes go higher score predictions just so that you can list more players you really want to see score?
I just really like goals.
Yeah, okay.
Well, I
We
feel like
want another one, just like the other one. We want 3.
3. Yeah, but I feel like it's like Rapids can be like good for 2. Like that's something that's not a bold
Mhm.
prediction. But I think to
Agreed.
really like state that I think we're gonna fire on all cylinders, that's why I say 3. If it had been like a really bad team like in the past, that's why I say things like 4-1, things like that. But like when I would say in a situation where I'm predicting 3-0 right now, it's hard for me to parse like which 3 because I think Hoffa could easily have 2. Calvin Harris could get 1. Like, I don't know. No, Sarah's frozen. Am I here all by myself? Hello, darkness, my old friend. It's time for Tori to speak again. Bro. Oh no, Sarah wants me to finish this all by myself. Oh, maybe she's back? No. Flash in the pan. All right. Well, we appear to be having technical difficulties. That or Sarah just quiet quit the podcast and she is no longer coming back. So I will tell you, you can find her at the Fitouri on socials and at the match, hoping for a maybe win. You can find me at Matthew Wick on Blue Sky. You can also find me at the District 7 Denver Summit FC Community Town Hall at Burndown and at the game this Saturday. You can find Monk level 42 Pokemon Go hunting and forming a union. We are definitely not holding him hostage in our basement. And I guess for Sarah, Monk, and myself, I'll say up the PIDs.